I think it made sense for men to rule the world for like the onset of humanity, right? Because back then it was like man against nature, right? Like we needed that masculine energy, power, and consistency to like hunt, create infrastructure, like provide a container and safety for humankind, right? And for me, that's a very masculine trait. You know, disregarding like actual biological men or women, I think, you know, we needed a masculine energy, I think, in the beginning to contain safety, humankind and safety, right? But now we've gotten to a point where like we built enough shit, like we have enough shit in the world, like everything is actually really good. Like, if you look at the grand scheme of life, like we have everything, like we're more prosperous and more abundant than ever. Like any sense of scarcity is, well, in my opinion, man-made. Like we have enough food. Like how much food are we wasting every year? Like we have enough like housing, for example. Like there's so many abandoned houses and towns all over the world because it wasn't a capitalistic, it wasn't a monetary benefit, for example, or what have you. Like so many reasons. So I like the fundamental like necessities of masculine energy. I feel like we've already fulfilled. Like we're very good at producing and innovating and like going upwards. But it's like we've been so focused on the progress that it's like this phallic energy of going up. That it's like, look, dudes, we've gone up enough. Like look at the new iPhones, right? It's like iPhone 17 is so much like 16 and 15. Like I feel like if I use an iPhone 10 now, my user experience wouldn't be that different to using an iPhone 17. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of peaked. Like we've ascended, we've conquered the heavens, we've innovated, you know, we've like as men as men we've conquered, you know, we really have conquered the world. Like nature is at our disposal, you know, like so now I feel a lot of the problems we have in the world, it comes from this excess of masculine energy. Like it's too much, you know, it's like we're pushing too hard now. We don't know how to chill after you crushed it and everything is fine. Like what do you actually want to do with your life, right? Like rather than just having your purpose and your identity be defined by achievements, which I feel like is a very masculine thing. It's like, well, when it's peaceful, when you're not going to war, how do you actually enjoy life? Like we've created this momentum of like doing, and now that's like the sort of default culture, at least in, you know, well, I would say in most of the world. But if we actually take a step back and we look at the world as it is, it's like we don't actually need to do that much. Like most of the really important fundamental things for survival is done. Yet we don't like share those resources or distribute what we've done properly because of, let's say, corporate greed or what have you, right? It's the whole inequality, the 1% or whatever you can say. And it's like, why do we do that? Is it a masculine urge to be like, look at me, I'm so much better than you? Like this egoic sort of motivation? Perhaps. Now, if you look at the most progressive countries in the world, in my opinion, is in Scandinavia, the Nordics, right? Like Denmark, Finland, Sweden, and Norway, of countries of that nature. Like they are so progressive. Everyone is like really happy, right? Their happiness is good. Like the work-life balance is perfect. You know, I think they're doing like the 40 work week and stuff like that. And it's working really well. Like to me, I feel like that is where the world should look for as an example of a well-functioning country. And if you look at the people in leadership positions in politics and things like that, they have a lot of women. I think a lot more so than other countries. And like, can you say that this is uh, a case that, okay, having women in leadership positions actually makes a country run better? Perhaps, but I think overall they've always had this culture of, I feel like, really understanding the softer side of life. When people lose touch with their hearts for the purposes of chasing only money, and let's say they get the money, they still feel really empty inside, right? They haven't cultivated their inner essence. So then they still feel really shit, and then, you know, they off themselves or they have a really shitty life, then it's like you ask yourself, what's the point? We're so fixated on chasing and crushing it and shit that when you succeed, you still feel shit. Like it's a lose-lose battle, right? And it's like people, they make money and they're financially stable, but then they get to that point, they still feel empty inside. So then what do they do? What do they spend their money on? Like a lot of bullshit they don't really need on hedonism, for example. Or they spend on OnlyFans, right? Because they feel like maybe there's some sort of connection with the OnlyFans girl. And they just pour all their money on the OnlyFans girl in this sad, empty attempt to establish some semblance of a delusion of connection. I don't know, like, it's really sad. When you're so empty inside and the only strategy, the only move is to spend money and you try to fill that void with money, only to realize it's like sticking bread on your stomach, hoping to get full. So, yeah, it's like, I feel like in order to create a better world, we need to balance the scales, right? If there's too much masculine energy, we need more feminine energy, whether that's literal woman or just men more in tune with their feminine side. Also, I was studying the menstrual cycle of women. Actually, this is what brought up this whole thinking. And what I realized is like, just to go over quickly, like basically the menstrual cycle has 4 phases, 7 days each, 28 days in total on average. And then every phase, every 7 days is like a different season, basically. Like in a way, the menstrual cycle follows the tune of nature in a way, a lot more so than, let's say, the testosterone cycle of men. So when menstruation starts, it's the menstrual cycle, and that's winter. And that's like the lowest point of the cycle, right? If you imagine like a sine graph or what have you, where it's like low and high, and then it goes back down again. And then it goes into the follicular phase, which is like spring, and the energy starts picking back up again. And, you might be really creative at this time, and you might want to brainstorm and come up with ideas, right? It's a very airy kind of energy. Then you go into summer, this is like sleigh season, the ovulation phase. And this is when you're the most bold and out there, and you're like, you're doing shit, right? And this is where you want to maybe do the most work and be the most out there and connecting and things like that. And then you go into the luteal phase, and like the energy is coming back down. And this is when it's like, okay, I've done the damage of summer. Now let's audit everything we've done and sort of collate everything. And this is sort of like, I would say kind of like boss girl mode, where you're like organizing and editing everything that's happened. So the energy is lower, but it's not so low you can't do anything. But it's like the type of work you want to do is not so much extroverted. It's more like introverted, you could say. From my understanding, is it's a cycle. And then you go into the menstrual, and the menstrual is like, yeah, it's like completely the lowest, and you just want to chill, and this is when you want to reflect and rest. And I feel like this is a beautiful representation of how nature works, of going up and down, right? Like if you don't go through this cycle as a person, it's like you actually become really unhealthy, right? Like men, it's like they always want to be in summer. They always want to push, but then people burn out, and then their lives suck, and they get unhealthy and things like that. Then they get sick and they die. Then it's like, well, your business is over if you're dead, right? Like, so in my opinion, because women have menstrual cycle, they're more attuned to nature and therefore to God as well. I would stretch that thought to that. It's like they basically, even if women try to be like men, because men's force this like misogynistic kind of patriarchal culture mindset onto women, unfortunately is the case, I would say. No matter how much a woman tries to be masculine like a man, they can never be as like a man. The best woman tennis player could be really good, but compared to a man, she can to the best man. It's like there's no competition basically. Each man and woman, masculine and feminine, they both have their own uses and potential and talents, for example, right? But then it's like if you force a feminine talent to do a masculine thing, it's like it's stupid. It's like bad HR. You know what I mean? Like you're picking the wrong person to do the thing, and not only is it stupid, it's like it's so fucked up that like. The whole 9 to 5 thing is a very masculine thing where you're expected to be like consistent and productive the same way every single day, Monday to Friday. Like that's a very masculine way of structuring things, right? Women are not designed for the 9 to 5. Basically, like they're not. But then it's like rather than being compassionate towards that, and maybe like I had an idea of like, oh, let's say you had a woman run company, you know, it's like you can have like a menstrual week where you can wake up later and go to leave earlier, right? And then during your ovulation week, you can work more to make up for time or something like that. It's like not only is like women, I feel like not given the compassion that they really need for their biology to work in a masculine sort of 9 to 5 structure, they're almost like berated for not competing with men. It's such a fucking stupid thing. It's so ignorant, you know? It's like, well, if you are, sorry, I'm gonna rant a little bit. It's like if you are a man, you are more capable. It's like rather than like flexing that and being like, wow, woman, why aren't you as good as me? Look at me, I'm so much better than you. So look, if you are a king and you really are better and you are more capable, wouldn't like the big king thing to do is to take care of the ones that are not as capable? Like a king lives for its people, right? The king is not a king, so you can flex on people that he's a king. You know, if that is a king, that's not a very good king in my opinion. That is a petty king. So it's like rather than shitting on women for not keeping up with men, it's like that's like the fucking worst. Like if any, like it's like the complete opposite of what I feel like you should do. Is like have more compassion for women. And also because women are more in tune with nature, I feel like that gives them access to intuition that's a lot higher and more accessible than men. And in my opinion, intuition makes better decisions in the long term than only using your mind and logic, which men tend to do more. So having women or like feminine energy, because men can also be very intuitive, but I think women, I would say, is probably more talented towards intuition. Like if we take the same example of tennis, like a really intuitive man could be very intuitive, but a very intuitive woman, I feel like, would still outperform the man in terms of intuition, right? So having women in leadership position, especially making like big picture decisions, I feel like would be better, this feminine energy, because they can feel and touch into a grander picture of life and like the greater picture of evolution and the timeline of Earth, shall we say, than a man that perhaps can only see more on an immediate sense with their ego and their logic. Because intuition can perceive things that the logic cannot perceive. So a man might only make decisions within logic because that's all he can see. That's all he can trust. But a woman might be able to feel things beyond that bubble. And those decisions, in my opinion, would stretch a lot further. Like as much as a woman try to be like a man, they can't ignore their menstrual cycle, their biology. And therefore I feel like they're always tethered to nature in a way that's more so than a man. Like I think it's also good that a man can ignore their cycle and their nature more, right? It's like they don't have this biological you can say impediment in a way where prevents them from following their mind, right? So it's like, you know, back in the days when there is a saber-toothed tiger and you really needed to fight and do shit, it's like you can't be like, oh, I don't feel like it because I'm in a menstrual phase. It's like, no, fuck your feelings, man. You got to show up and fight, right? And I feel like that is valid and really useful. But now we don't really need that as much, you know? So I think it's time to pass the baton to the woman who now, in a world that is safe, we've created the container. The man have created the structure in the container, in my opinion, already quite well for the woman to thrive, for the feminine, for the heart, for the magic to thrive. Now we gotta let the woman do their thing, right? But now men are not letting that happen because of their ego and their greed. It's like they created this wonderful structure, I would say. We have very good resources and food and everything and buildings and stuff like that. But it's like we're so proud of our structure and our status that we don't want to give it up because of pride, I would say, essentially. And then that's actually fucking up the world, you know? Now, if we know this information, it's like, how can we approach life with more feminine energy? It's like, you gotta slow down more. Try and feel your feelings more. Differentiate between your mind and your heart, and try and follow your heart more, I would say. That will slowly get us into more feminine energy into the world. Like, do things with integrity, not just what you think will make you look good. Like, be real, basically. Authenticity.